Assalamu alaikum and a very good evening to you, my dear friends. Today I have the pleasure of introducing to you a very learned scholar from South Africa. He has been a very frequent visitor to this country and he is a member of the Jamiatul Ulama of South Africa as well as a member of the National Religious Leaders Council of South Africa. He is none other than Brother Maulana Ebrahim I Bham. Assalamu alaikum, Maulana.
Wa alaikum salam wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh to you, and I would like to extend a greeting of Assalamu alaikum, peace be upon all your viewers.
Jazakallah, thank you. Maulana, you have traveled the world widely and you have seen conflicts, you have seen peace. You have seen many Muslim conflicts as well as non-Muslim conflicts. Now, what are the diverse global issues which has given rise to these conflicts, and what are your thoughts for a united ummah, Muslim ummah?
Well, I think firstly to start off with that peace is something that every human being aspires towards. The Muslim community and Muslim individuals are no different in wanting peace. Each and every human being aspires towards peace. The Muslim religion starts off its Quran with the chapter of mercy or the declaration of mercy. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim, in the name of the Almighty who is most beneficent and most merciful. And it is said that there has to be conflict in the world when each and every person aspires towards peace. Now the causes of conflict in the world are many. It would be difficult to pinpoint one exact reason with regard to the causes of conflict. Sometimes causes of conflict are because of vested interest. We've seen that happening, that there is interest at play, that people would go into conflict, create conflict for their own vested interest. Sometimes it would be because of extremism. Sometimes it could be because of various other reasons. My one thing that I always make mention, that one of the reasons that we could achieve peace in the world is justice. For without justice you might have a facade of peace, but you're not going to have real peace. You can go about, say, having great amount of slogans of peace and talking about the United Nations Charter, speaking about peaceful resolution of conflict. But until the people on the ground do not see justice, peace sometimes will elude places of conflict, because one of the important ingredients for peace to come about is because that there must be justice.
Yes, in your country, South Africa, you have seen some of the biggest conflicts, the apartheid, and then you lived through it. I believe that you will live through it, and then you came to the democracy. What was the role of the Muslims in this transition?
Well, I think a very, very interesting question you have put forward and you have raised, because the Muslim contribution firstly to the anti-apartheid struggle is well documented, and it is something that I have been privy to. Keep in mind that we studied during the major, we were still students at the time when mostly the anti-apartheid activism was taking place. But we know that there have been Muslims who have been in the forefront of the anti-apartheid resistance. I have heard personally from Nelson Mandela, the late Nelson Mandela, about the role played by a Muslim religious leader by the name of Maulvi Kachalia. And I've heard Nelson Mandela saying that the very first time the abhorrent nature of apartheid was brought forward to the world was in the non-aligned summit, non-aligned nations summit in Bandung in Indonesia, when the African National Congress sent a delegation, and that delegation was headed by Moses Kotane, who was a very prominent ANC, African National Congress leader. But one of the prominent spokesperson of the delegation was Maulvi Kachalia. And Maulvi Kachalia was amongst the Muslim religious leaders who was instrumental with the delegation in bringing forward to the world the abhorrent nature of the apartheid regime. And Muslims have been in the forefront in resisting and opposing apartheid. There have been many Muslims who have been in that and have also been part and parcel of the transition and have been also part and parcel of the new democratic dispensation in South Africa. For example, the first Minister of Justice in South Africa was Abdullah Umar, who was a Muslim. There were 5 Muslim cabinet ministers in the Mandela regime when he became the first president of the democratic South Africa. So yes, Muslim contribution both against apartheid and in the transition and in the new dispensation has been well documented, and it is something that Muslims in South Africa are proud of.
Very great. And what does Islam say about apartheid and this social discrimination?
Well, it is a very famous verse in the Holy Quran speaks about the oneness of humankind, the equality of humankind. And Allah Ta'ala says in the Holy Quran, Ya ayyuhan nas, inna khalaqnakum min dhakari wa untha. We have created you from one, male and female. The origin of humankind is one. وَجَعَلْنَاكُمْ شُعُوبًا وَقَبَائِلَ لِتَعَارَفُوا. And we have put you into different races and ethnic groups, which is a reality. No one can deny his ethnicity. No one can deny his racial background. No one can deny the tribe where he comes from. But Allah Ta'ala has made mention that what is the reason for that? لِتَعَارَفُوا, for the sake of identification. إِنَّ أَكْرَمَكُمْ عِنْدَ اللَّهِ أَتْقَاكُمْ. That each and every human being starts off at an equal footing in terms of his ethnicity, his racial background, and only the one who surges ahead is the one who surges ahead not on the basis of his ethnicity or his racial background, but he surges ahead on the basis of his conduct.
Right. And also when we come down to the ground situation, how have the Muslims of South Africa reconciled with other religious groups and the minorities, etc., in this reconciliation process?
South Africans have one advantage in the fact that because there were different groups of people that were part and parcel of the anti-apartheid regime and the anti-apartheid struggle. So whether it be people of diverse backgrounds from the ethnic or from the racial background or from the religious affiliation, because they were together against that. So in a similar manner, you found that type of reconciliation and that type of harmony has been carried forward into the new South Africa to a great extent. I'm not saying that there are not pockets of difficulties and challenges which are there, but I think by and large there has been a unique type of harmony and reconciliation, and also perhaps guided along by Mandela being an inspiration, who, as we know, despite the fact that he was in prison for 27 years, did not come out with a bitterness. He was the champion of peace and reconciliation, and I think that has impacted positively upon relationships in South Africa across the racial divide and of course across the religious affiliations.
So there was a very positive role played by the Muslims.
Well, definitely the Muslims have played a very important role, especially during the initial stages. They have played a very initial, but as we go along, we are finding not only amongst the Muslim community but also within all communities, even within the black community of South Africa. As things go along, when you have something to fight against, normally people are very united and you have dedication and enthusiasm. But when that common enemy like the apartheid regime is no more there, and apartheid is not there as a system, then you do have a situation where there is a general apathy. And that is perhaps something that has happened also in the Muslim community. Yes. And we hope that we will be able to arrest that apathy.
Yeah. Maulana, you have seen or heard of, you have visited Sri Lanka many times and you have perhaps seen the conflict that we went through. For 30 years we had problems in this country. And what we expected after the end of this conflict has not come as fast as we would like to. have you seen little problems that we have in this country? For example, certain extremist groups are trying to harass the minority religions and minority communities. Have you seen anything like this anywhere else in the world? After post-conflict situation, there is a sort of seedlings of conflict coming up again.
Yes, there has been situations in the world where post-conflict, there are different types of conflicts that come into play. Many a times when you have one conflict that is happening that seems to dominate the discourse in a country. But after that has been resolved, then there might be other factors that come into play with regard to bringing about, whether it be sometimes simmering tensions, or whether it be because of the other dominant type of conflict that simmering tensions have been sort of downplayed. Sometimes it might happen that there might be other factors at play in terms of reconciliation not being achieved to the degree that it has been achieved or should be achieved.
Right. Now, there's another aspect. Islam is a religion of peace. Now, what does Islam specifically say about communal harmony, reconciliation and coexistence?
Well, this is something that is very important. I think Islam has placed a great amount of emphasis upon the fact that there must be peace and communal harmony and reconciliation. There is a verse in the Holy Quran in the 28th chapter where Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala calls upon Muslims to treat people of other religions, especially those who have been fair with them. لا ينهاكم الله عن الذين لم يقاتلوكم في الدين ولم يخرجوكم من دياركم أن تبروهم. Allah does not prevent you. In fact, Almighty accommodates and permits you with regard to other religious groups who are fair with you, who do not expel you from your homes, that you must deal with them with kindness, equity and justice. What is amazing in this verse is that the words used are bir, and bir in the Quran and Hadith has been used to refer to our relationship with our parents, and Allah uses the very same word to refer to our relationship with people of other faiths who have been fair and kind towards us. So I think peace and reconciliation and harmony are immensely important aspects that have been put forward by the religion.
For Sri Lankans, with your experience, your all-round experience in this peace and harmony, conflict resolution, what can you tell us to do as Sri Lankans to bring about lasting peace?
I think first of all we must keep in mind the harms of conflict, the harms of bitterness, the harms of hatred. We know that the harms of hatred are such that when a person carries that hatred, it does not only harm the people whom his hatred is directed towards. Many times it harms the person himself. When a person carries grudges and hatred, it doesn't only harm the person whose the hatred is directed towards, it actually harms the person. Reminds me of a very amazing anecdote that a teacher one day told the students and said that I want you to, how many people that you have bitterness towards, I want you to bring them out that amount of potatoes tomorrow in the class. And some bought 2 and some bought 3 and some bought 4, depending upon how many people the children felt that they were hostile or they did not have a good relationship with. And the teacher said that I want you to carry that potatoes depicting the amount of people that you have conflict with and you are hostile towards or you have hatred towards for several days. And they carried it for many days, and after several 4, 5, 6 days they found it very difficult to carry it because the potatoes were starting to emit an odor and was very difficult to keep to that particular and carry it around. And after a while the teacher said, I want to give you a lesson, and the lesson is that when you start carrying hatred towards other people, that's exactly what happens to you also. You are carrying that grudge and hatred. It doesn't only harm the person whom you are directing your hatred towards, it harms yourself also. So my message to Sri Lankans across the faith spectrum and religious affiliation would be that take away bitterness, take away hatred, and there is such a serenity and there is such a pleasure in living harmoniously and peacefully with reconciliation that should be the aspiration of each and every Sri Lankan.
Maulana, could you go into a little more details about the post-apartheid reconciliation process?
I think South Africa were extremely fortunate to have a leader in the caliber of Nelson Mandela. Bear in mind that I was amongst those people who spoke at the time of his memorial, which was held at the stadium in Johannesburg. And one of the aspects that he brought about reconciliation and harmony, and how he achieves nation building, it is absolutely unique. Here a person was put into jail for 27 years. He could have come up with a lot of bitterness, and because of the stature that he had within the community, he could have steered the path of the country towards bloodshed and civil war. And really the people would have followed him because of the moral authority he had over the people. But he did not misuse that particular moral authority that he had. He effected such great amount of reconciliation and national building, and he brought the country together when it could have easily veered off towards civil war. I mean, just to bring about the national anthem of South Africa as an example, he included within the national anthem of the new South Africa, the new democratic South Africa, portions of the slogan and the anthem of the African National Congress, Inkosi Sikelel' Afrika. He included within it some aspects that were used by the apartheid regime, and that particular aspect also became part and parcel of the new national anthem. There are many examples with regard to it. The Springbok emblem that was used by the South African rugby team was a controversial emblem, because it was also used previously only by the white groupings, whereas black South Africans, if they had a rugby team, you should not be called the Springboks. But Mandela insisted that it must remain with the Springboks. I'm just giving you some examples with regard to how he rose beyond, any type of ethnic differences, and he rose beyond racial divide to go the extra mile to bring about reconciliation and harmony within South Africa. And I think South Africans across the religious affiliation owed a great debt of gratitude to Nelson Mandela to steer the path of South Africa towards peace and reconciliation. And as I said during the time of the memorial when I spoke, I said I hope leaders throughout the world could be able to take a lesson and take a leaf from his remarkable example.
Maulana, did you have an opportunity to work with other leaders of other religions in this reconciliation process, and what is your experience?
Mandela, once after he was released, in the office of the African National Congress, called religious leaders, and he set up a national religious leaders forum, of which I was one of the executive members, and I'm still a member of that, which has now been changed into National Religious Leaders Council. And one of the things that Mandela made mention, he said that I know that South Africans by and large are spiritual by nature. They pay a great amount of emphasis upon religion and spirituality, and religion has played a very great role against apartheid, and I would like to see religion continuing to play a role in the reconciliation process and the development and progress of South Africa. So he set up this National Religious Leaders Forum with the intention of meeting the religious leaders from time to time to be able to discuss policies of the state. Indeed. So this was an initiative by the late President of South Africa, who had brought about this coming together of National Religious Leaders Forum with the intention of creating harmony and also helping in the development process of the country.
Thank you, Maulana, for this great interview. You have come all the way from South Africa. You have been a frequent visitor, and thank you very much for spending so many minutes with us, and it has been a very useful session for us. Thank you.
Thank you very much for the opportunity. I have found Sri Lanka to be an amazing country in terms of its lushness, in terms of its beauty, in terms of its different type of landscape that it has. So it has the sea, it has its lushness, it has its plains, open plains, it has its savannas, and we hope in a similar manner, the way that lends itself to the beauty of Sri Lanka, in a similar manner the different types of people that make up Sri Lanka would also lend itself to the beautiful country of Sri Lanka.
Knowledge Box, the value-based media network.